So you're both vegans from Texas.
That's right, Houston, Texas, baby. Woo!
Which is kind
Go
of
Rockets, go Astros.
I mean, obviously it's the cattle state.
But it's changing.
Changing.
Yeah.
And how long ago did you two meet?
3.5 years ago. In fact, I'm here today because of Anuj. He's like a brother to me, and I went to a Loving Hut for dinner one night, and he was the MC, the host. We just started talking, and our friendship started from there.
Great. And the whole vegan scene's growing in Houston, I would imagine.
It really is.
Yeah.
For a city, in the heart, and that's deep in the heart of Texas, I guess, so to speak. I mean, we started out with almost nothing. We've got a lot of vegan activity there, actually. The Vegan Society of Peace is the prominent vegan organization there. I'm on the board of that. And we just had our 6th annual vegan festival, or Veg Fest.
Yeah, and that was so successful.
It was amazing. We had between 6,000 and 7,000 people there, as far as I understand. That may not be an official final count, but that's my understanding. And it was just, we were sold out, I think a couple of months before the event, even for booths. And there was just so much excitement around it. It was fabulous. It was a great event, and a real movement forward for a city like Houston, because people are still getting a little more used to this idea of veganism. What's interesting is that we don't have purely vegan restaurants coming up, but a lot of restaurants are offering more and more vegan items now, and it's really catching on.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Yeah.
All right, and your message is more towards the dairy industry.
Yes, I'm here in LA to talk about the cruelty of dairy cows. And my main reason is to reach out to my own Indian people who are pure vegetarians. They don't even eat eggs. So I'm wanting them to, because they believe in ahimsa, which means non-violence, I'm wanting them to go from vegetarian to going vegan. And I want to let the world know about the cruelty of dairy, not just Indian people, but the whole world. And the reasons why it's not dairy is because, number one, they're artificially inseminated with a device called a rape rack. This is the medical term that the dairy industry is using to inseminate a cow. Number two, the male calf will be killed for veal. And without the dairy industry, the veal industry would not exist. And three, the female cow will be slaughtered at the tender age of 5 or 6 when they can live up to 20 to 25 years. This means babies are having babies. So that's my whole thing. I spoke at the Jain Temple here in LA, the first vegan Jain temple in the world. It was an honor to speak. That's my dream. I want all the temples to take the pledge of being a pure ahimsa temple, getting the dairy out of the temples.
Well, and I want to second what Dolly's saying. I mean, Dolly's so passionate about this topic, as am I, but she's so wonderful when she talks about it. She's so inspiring. I mean, people literally go vegan on the spot when Dolly speaks.
Thank you,
it's
Anuj.
so wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm moved every time she speaks. And being of Indian origin myself as well, it's deeply distressing to me.
Yeah.
I've been vegan, it'll be 30 years in February.
He's a pioneer.
And, I've been screaming at the top of my lungs for decades, like, stop abusing and murdering these cows. And, Indian people, it's very interesting. They seem to have this mental block. It's like, well, we're already vegetarian, as though they're doing enough.
Right.
And yet the cruelty in the dairy industry is so horrific, it actually is far worse than the cruelty in the meat industry.
Exactly.
Eric Marcus, who's written a couple of books on veganism, has said that if you actually had to choose for less cruelty, it would be better to eat meat and avoid, it would be better to eat meat and avoid eggs and dairy rather than the other way around.
Right,
which
because
is
there's more suffering in a pound of beef than a glass of milk.
The other way around. There's more suffering in a glass of milk
than a pound of beef.
Thank
you.
Yeah, no, and there's more suffering, as Dolly's saying, in a glass of milk than there is in a pound of beef. And it's really horrible because most people are doing it the other way around. So they're vegetarian, but most people are called lacto-ovo vegetarians. So they won't eat the actual flesh of an animal, but they'll still eat the animal secretions or fluids, eggs and dairy products, secretions from cows. And they'll think it's just fine because they'll say, oh, but they don't harm the animals, do they, to get the eggs or the dairy? And actually quite the reverse is true. So I really
And the tradition is so, because they say Lord Krishna drank milk, which was 5,000 years ago. We're not living in that time anymore. We're living in a different time. So we need to evolve.
And it's not even clear that Lord Krishna did drink milk. This
it
is
could
all
be scriptures.
Mythology, just the way they depict them in history.
Right.
But,
so Indian vegetarians have to go vegan. A lot of them don't know, and if they do know, this tradition is so there. But tradition doesn't always mean morality. Morality and tradition are two different things. And so we need to create a new divine imprint, and for ahimsa, for the planet, and for our health.
Absolutely. So we're here at the LA Reggae Vegan Festival to spread the word of compassion and truth and justice and all that stuff, of course. And it's so great to combine it with reggae music and the reggae and Rasta culture, because, you know, Rastafarianism actually is very embracing of compassion and actually veganism. And it's a way for all of us to come together as one people, and to really celebrate human rights, to celebrate animal rights, and to really espouse veganism. And some people here who may not be vegan are now getting exposed to it. I just had a lovely conversation with a man a few minutes ago. He says that this is the first time he's felt so safe and happy in a community of people. And I wanted to emphasize to him, and he's not vegan yet, and he said, but I'm so open to it now. And I emphasized to him the connection between human rights and animal rights, because just as we have made so many humans to suffer over the years because of whatever, their gender, the color of their skin, their sexual orientation, whatnot, we are constantly abusing animals, we're confining them, we're exploiting them. In a lot of cases, we're torturing them, and then we're slaughtering them so that people can eat them or wear their skins or whatnot. And I'm really a proponent of making a connection for people that any type of oppression, any type of abuse is all linked. It's interlinked. We shouldn't be abusing one but saying we're so great because we're not abusing the other. And that's one huge failing of people who consider themselves, say, to be what quote unquote liberals. You know, they're so proud of themselves for espousing gay rights and women's rights and human rights, but they have no problem then going and enjoying a barbecue. Or
and speciesism is the greatest social justice issue talked about right now.
It's true.
Okay, so this is what we need to do for the planet. We want Vegan World 2026. That's what we're praying for, and the planet's got to go vegan. You know, for the animals, for your health, and for the planet.
Well, for the environment especially. In fact, one talk I'm going to be giving today, a study was done by the University of, I think, was it Oxford University?
Oxford,
Gentleman by the name, I think it's John Poor. I might be getting his first name. Is it Joseph or James or John? Whatever. I have the paper here.
The most comprehensive study.
Most comprehensive environmental study done. They looked at hundreds, if not thousands, of farms, and the conclusion was that going vegan is the #1 thing that you can do to save the earth and the environment. 83% of land is used for livestock farming. It's devastating to the earth. It's devastating to fossil fuels, to our water supplies. The deforestation that occurs is really horrifying.
That's right.
And we all really need to go vegan to save the world.
We do. And really California, right now in California, we're getting water from our aquifers that took years to build. Because remember, we're getting all this water to our dairy cows.
Probably millennia to form, you know, these aquifers. That's right.
And we're giving all this water to our dairy cows, and then it takes a tremendous amount of water to grow the crops to feed it to the cows, who we're slaughtering at the end anyway. It's just so much of a wastage.
Well, there's a world hunger problem that gets connected in with that, because what happens is it's so much less efficient to take all these crops, you know, soy, corn, oats, wheat, whatever, and feed it to animals, to non-human animals, to livestock animals, and then to have it come out as a pound of beef or whatever it is, pick your choice of meat or whatever, instead of taking those crops and those products and feeding them directly to the human population. There's a huge inefficiency component there, which is a very complicated issue that could be talked about
we can
for a long
end
time.
world hunger if the planet would go vegan, because every grain and legume we grow gets sent to the third world countries, and you know, this woman farming the land holds her hungry child in her hands. So we got to go vegan for world hunger, the planet, everything.
Well, and animal cruelty, first and foremost in my heart. I mean, we should not be treating other beings this way. There's no reason to take 150 billion with a B animals, confine them, torture them, mutilate them, slaughter them, and pretend that nothing is happening and turn a blind eye. This is the defining blindness of our culture, as Dr. Will Tuttle says in his book, The World Peace Diet. We are very conveniently avoiding the fact that that animal that ended up on our plates was somehow living a happy life, or we're thinking they're living a happy life, or want to believe that, and we're avoiding the fact that they lived a horrific, miserable existence, and finally that animal was murdered so that you could have a hamburger. When actually now there's so many, this festival is a wonderful testament, there's so many wonderful vegan options. There's the Impossible Burger. We actually went and had a wonderful meal last night at a vegan restaurant here, and they had an Impossible Burger with bacon strips on it. 2 people at the table who are vegan were like,
send it back.
Are we sure this is vegan? Are we sure?
It tastes so good.
I mean, it's so quote unquote real, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, there's really no excuse.
There's no excuse.
The
People
food
can have
is
any
so
food
delicious.
they want. You can get any kind of dairy substitute.
30 or more dairy dairy substitutes.
They're
The
making
cheeses are
vegan,
getting better.
yeah, the vegan eggs are coming out now. I mean, there's 100 types of vegan cheeses. There's a restaurant or a chain of a grocery chain called Vegans that emanates out of Europe in Germany. I think Berlin is maybe where it started. They have 85 types of vegan cheese. There is no excuse.
No excuse.
There's no
and
excuse.
I like how you mentioned Dr. Will Tuttle. I love him very much. And he says a quote, "How could it ever be our purpose to rob another living being of his or her purpose?" That's bottom line.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else to say.
Yeah, there's nothing else
Just
to say.
go vegan, please.
Go vegan, please.
For your life, for the animals, for the earth, for world hunger.
We love you all.
Peace out.
Peace out.